the Neo65, then the Neo70, and now the Neo80. Through QWERTYkeys, Neo Studios have repeatedly shown that you can have great keyboards with the premium features but without the premium price tag. The previous two boards in the lineup shared a lot of qualities that weren't really possible in the larger form factor, so as well as changes to the design to accommodate the TKL size, the board now features a staggering 6 mounting styles. And this is still very budget friendly, so the next week or so I want to try all of them out, see which ones I like the best, is it actually worth it to include this many, or whether it's taking away from the sound and feel that could have been better dialed in with only 2 or 3 mounting styles like their previous boards. But before all that, what are these design choices I mentioned? Whereas the previous two boards supported a unibody case, the Neo80 instead opts for a 2-piece case that uses a combination of curved sides and chamfers to give a softer appearance. I like the side profile here, as if you opt for a silver or champagne bottom case you can get this dual tone look, which is very reminiscent of the F18X V2 side profile. The Orbit logo's kept its position above the arrow cluster, but now also utilises RGB for that almost Matrix 8X type styling. The board still retains the easy rebuilding seen in the previous two boards, with magnetic connectors replacing the JST cable for the daughter board, but also now including a ball catch system to easily remove the top case to rebuild. I like that extra thought has gone into the design here, thickening up the top case to prevent scratches seen on other ball catch system boards, amongst a few other things that we'll touch on a little bit later. The bottom case also has these silicone socks on the corners to cushion the closure of the board, which I think is a really nice addition. I opted for the all black with the copper weight because I'm boring. But the colour options are as large as you'd expect from this series by now, with some cool new weights in the form of stonewashed stainless steel to get this different effect that I don't think I've really seen before on keyboard weights. But with the boring details of the board out of the way, let's crack on with the first build. I wanted to play it safe for this first build, and arguably the build that I'm probably going to stick with when all's said and done, and that's O-Ring with Gateron X's on FR4. These switches seem to be a running trend as of late, but as it's one of my favourite switches and I've built most of my recent boards with them, I think it gives me a pretty good reference point for comparisons. The build process was as expected. Honestly, with every Neo board, it seems to just get easier and easier. And when you combine the magnetic connectors for the PCB with the ball catch system, it's just seamless. This is actually the first time I've tried a ball catch system, and I really enjoyed the process. Now that's done, I'm gonna go grind Honkai for a bit like the degenerate I am. I'm gonna enjoy the build in its current state a little bit more, and I'll check in with you guys tomorrow for the next build. So it's actually 2 days later. I have done other things, I promise. I didn't just sit there at my desk. I got a haircut, see? In the meantime, I also realised that QWERTYkeys say that you can mix some of the mounting styles, namely the gaskets with the O-ring or the sandwich mount and the O-ring. So I gave both the gaskets a go in combination, see if this made any difference to the sound and feel. You get the sock gaskets that I think everyone's quite used to now, as well as the gaskets that are used in previous Neo boards. I do like that they kept with the plateless theme in order to keep the price down for those who want to pick up the board as cheaply as possible. And by adding tabs for the socks and the dumbbell gaskets to the PCB instead of the plate, it's nice and easily achievable. From the sound test, you can probably hear there isn't much difference. The dumbbells, in my opinion, have always resulted in a nice poppy spacebar, and I think the same could be said for the 80. Feel-wise, the sock gaskets give a slightly firmer typing feel compared to the dumbbells, which are a lot softer, so I actually do like that they're both included. When you throw the O-ring into the mix here for both mounting styles, I don't think there's really any difference. Maybe a tad firmer for both, but I don't know if that's just me coping pretty hard here. The gasket experience was great on the previous two boards, so it's no surprise that it's great here as well. It's nice and even across all the keys, and the sound profile is fantastic. Again, no surprises here. Every board in this series so far has been great. The idea I'm starting to get is that the inclusion of all these extra mounting styles in this board was due to the fact that it's not a unibody case anymore, so the extra case real estate can be used to, well, add more mounting styles. Not only this, but it provides a number of different options for typing feel, and I guess this is especially useful for newcomers to the hobby, to be able to really dial into what typing feel is preferable to you over others. I think the next step for me is going to be to tinker around this in its current build state, get a real idea of my thoughts on the board, and then try out the final mounting style, which I've got to say I'm most excited for, and that's sandwich mount. If this board didn't come with a ball catch system, I definitely wouldn't have had the motivation to make this video. I don't know how creators like a Keynote push out so many different sound test configurations per video. Crazy. I think the little things with this board go a long way. The little socks on each of the corners to cushion the closure. As a result, I haven't heard any metal on metal contact, and there's no visible scrapes or scratches on the inside of the board. I also like that so much consideration has gone into the ball catch system itself. By intentionally stressing the touch point to one side of the system, the contacts can be reversed over time to extend the lifespan of the board. Really great to see, I think. After taking this thing apart 20 odd times already, it's still rock solid. Hell, I've been picking it up just by the top case and it hasn't budged at all, which is a pretty great sign. Alright, I'm gonna stop procrastinating. Let's do the final build. The sandwich mount is great. Nice and firm, very little flex compared to the rest, and comparable sound-wise to the gasket socks. Adding the O-ring into the mix made it sound a little fuller in my opinion, but changed the flex just a tad so it wasn't so stiff anymore. Obviously, when you take into account different plates here, the mounting will be a lot more flexy with say a PC plate or a POM plate, but I honestly think this would be my favourite configuration. Saying this, it has been long enough that I've forgotten what the O-ring by itself actually felt and sounded like, so that could also be it. I honestly think it's crazy the changes that have been made from the 65 to the 80. In such a short period of time, it's like a completely different experience building and rebuilding this board. And hell, don't get me wrong, the Neo65 is an amazing custom keyboard. But the addition of the ball catch system here combined with the magnetic connectors is just a completely different ball game. Pardon the pun. I do like the stylistic choices for this board, and the softer edges definitely give the impression that the board is having a smaller footprint on the desk, sticking with the themes of the other boards in the Neo lineup. Like with the other boards, it's worth taking into account what configuration you want before actually pulling the trigger. Although it sits at $110 for the cheapest option, when taking into account more fancy weights, hot swap PCB, and say if you want one of the more expensive plates, you're going to be looking at paying $150 upwards. The exact build I went for will run you $145, add in around $30 for shipping, so $175 in total, and I mean that's still really reasonable for what you're getting here. Coming into this, I wanted to answer the question of whether I felt like including all of these mounting styles in the single chassis was worth it. There have been boards in the past that have done this brilliantly, like the Duality, and others that folks in the community felt it wasn't really necessary for. After trying them all out and spending some time with this board, I honestly think it was worth it. Neo hit the nail on the head with the 80. Obviously you aren't going to get a stark difference in sound output between the mounting styles when using the same plate and switches, but you're going to get a different typing experience altogether when it comes to the feeling of the board. The past few days I've really been reminiscing on some of my first custom builds, namely the black tofu that had these exact caps that I did every mod under the sun to in order to figure out what I liked in this hobby. I tried hard plates, softer plates, I dremeled out the posts to make it an O-ring board. I even soldered my first PCB with this board to figure out whether I liked Sangan bottom row, Mughal bottom row, steps or non-step caps. I tried foam, tape, PE foam, you name it. I'm a big advocate for more accessible boards having features like this. I always liked the look of the Neo80 way back when due to the option of multiple mounting styles, giving newcomers a number of things to mess around with when building out the board. This whole experience has taken me back to that time. It gives newcomers to this hobby a similar journey, where you can try out all these different mounting styles, different plates, switches, and due to the ease of rebuilding with this thing, it's a whole lot less tedious than it once was back in the day. If you like tenkeyless boards, I honestly couldn't think of a better budget board to dive headfirst into this hobby with. As we come to expect from the Neo series, the quality is stellar, the ball catch system is really well executed, and both the wireless and wired versions of the PCBs are great. I personally enjoyed the sandwich mount the most here, but honestly all of the mounting styles are fantastic. Now that's all I had on the Neo80. Please do subscribe and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, and let me know your thoughts on the board in the comments down below. All sales information will be linked in the description. Make sure to join my Discord and follow my Instagram for updates while you're there. Thanks for watching, and I will see you nerds in the next one. Peace!